This is News 25 with Deanna O'Donnell and Missy Kohler. News 25, local news you can count on. News is brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law. Call 727-9900 today for your free consultation. If you need a lawyer, you need Nelson.
Welcome and thanks so much for joining us here on KPVM TV and Ace Country Radio's News 25. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
I'm Missy Kohler. Today is Friday, June 25th.
Well, a follow-up now to our top story last night. Nye County Sheriff's Office deputies have found the body of an elderly man inside his Pahrump apartment. And quick-moving investigation has now led detectives to a suspect who had fled to Colorado.
Thursday morning, Nye County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to 1141 Six-Shooter Avenue in Pahrump. That's where officers learned that an elderly male who lived in an apartment there had not been seen since February, and that 38-year-old Jeff Caraballo of Pahrump had been seen frequenting the residence and driving the man's car. Caraballo had provided several different reasons for the man's disappearance. Sheriff's Office detectives obtained a search warrant to enter the residence. Once inside, they uncovered evidence that a homicide had taken place, and they discovered the man's body inside a closet. Detectives later learned that Caraballo had fled to Aurora, Colorado. NCSO detectives flew to Aurora Friday morning, where they teamed up with the Aurora Police Department. Together, they identified Caraballo's location and was granted an arrest warrant. Caraballo was arrested on the warrant for open murder Friday afternoon and will be extradited to Nye County in the coming days. This is an ongoing investigation. If you have any information that could help detectives, you are asked to contact the Nye County Sheriff's Office.
Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue was called into action this morning for a structure fire in Comstock Park. Fire Chief Scott Lewis says the fire was quickly contained and no one was hurt.
So crews were initially dispatched for a report of a structure fire, that being a shed extending to a primary dwelling. As crews arrived on location, they identified the exact location on Vegas Valley Drive in the Comstock Park development. As crews arrived, they found smoke and active fire showing on the back side of the structure, which we call Division C. They immediately went into an offensive objective, meaning that they were going into the interior. They laid a supply line, which means they bring the water from the hydrant to the engine, tack lines out from there. The rest of the crews were placed in staging. They went in, they found fire at the rear of the interior of the structure and going down into the unoccupied space below. They quickly controlled that fire. No occupants. They did rescue a cat. The cat has been turned over to a guardian who is a relative of the person who resides there. We believe that the fire originated on the underside of the structure toward the rear, possibly in an electrical loom. That's our initial impression, and we'll be investigating that further.
Well, Marco Torres appeared in Judge Kimberly Wonker's courtroom today for the sentencing for the murder of his roommate, Jonathan Piper.
Torres was arrested on April 4th of 2020 after deputies were called to a Linda Street address for a disconnected 911 call. Witnesses told deputies that they had heard the two occupants of the trailer fighting and yelling. Deputies forced their way into the residence and discovered Piper's body, which had sustained visible injuries to the head and face. Piper had been suffering from stage 4 terminal cancer and was unable to resist. Torres told deputies that the argument was over a bag of marijuana that Piper had spilled on the floor. Torres went on to strangle his roommate until he stopped breathing. Christopher Piper, Jonathan Piper's younger brother and only sibling, appeared in court to give a victim impact statement. Piper explained that Torres had been a friend of the two since he was 4 years old and described Torres as being the neighborhood bully, but that he grew out of that. Piper said that Torres offered to care for his brother through his treatment for lymphoma cancer and the remainder of his life. He said that his brother, at 5'11", only weighed about 100 pounds. Before imposing sentence, Judge Wonker said that she had reviewed the entire case from statements to officers' body cam footage.
Probably the most disturbing part about this case for this judge, having watched everything, is twofold. One is the fact that when the Nye County Sheriff's Office responded, they didn't break the door down. I, to this day, do not understand the lack of understanding that no probable cause was needed to breach the door on the property and go in. Instead, after fumbling and bumbling for 35 minutes, finally a lieutenant made the determination to call a locksmith, and that took a significant amount of time, and then it took the locksmith a significant amount of time to get the door open. And my comments are twofold with regard to that. One is that if you had time to call a locksmith, you had time to call a judge, if you truly believed you needed probable cause. But there are 11 exceptions to the search warrant, to entering a property without a search warrant. One is the medical emergency exception. It's very well delineated under Nevada law with Nevada Keys authority. And so it's troubling to me. Maybe I understood the deputies, but it went from a deputy to a sergeant to a lieutenant. The lieutenants report directly to the sheriff. So we have 11 lieutenants here at the Nye County Sheriff's Office, and it's troubling to me that the deputies, the sergeant, and the lieutenant did not understand the law. With that being said, it's equally as disturbing to me when the Nye County Sheriff's Office was at that property, knocking on the door, knocking on the windows, that Mr. Torres stood silent, that they could hear movement in the property, but he wouldn't come to the window or to the door. It's going to be the order and the judgment of the court that the defendant, Marco Antonio Torres, is sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, with parole eligibility beginning when a minimum of 10 years have been served.
And we'll be right back with more News 25.
You're watching News 25, the most recognized and farthest reaching local news in Nye County. News 25, local news you can count on.
All right, well, we have your Business First Brief right now with Angela Miles.
Here's Angela Miles with today's Business First Brief.
The stock market is getting a boost as President Biden says he has an infrastructure deal with a bipartisan group of senators. The two sides are expected to finalize how to pay for the roughly $1 trillion proposal. Checking the economy, GDP grew at a solid 6.4% to start the year. Economists predict 2021 could become the best year for the economy in 7 decades. The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits fell to 411,000. Carnival reports that passengers booking trips to set sail is up 45%. However, the cruise line admits losing $2 billion. BuzzFeed is going public using a special purpose acquisition company, better known as a SPAC. The deal values BuzzFeed at $1.5 billion.
To find out where you can see us every day, go to businessfirstam.com.
Deputies arrest a man at one of the Horizon markets for an alleged theft at another Horizon market.
Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to the Horizon Market on Blag Road in reference to a theft. Contact was made with the store clerk, who stated that she was informed that a dryer coin slot had been tampered with and coins from the machine had been taken. The clerk showed deputies the dryer, and they noticed that the material that secures the coin catch had been pried back and the change was missing. Deputies were able to view surveillance photos of the incident, and they observed a Hispanic male wearing a black hat, shirt, and gray shorts. They noted that the male had several tattoos on both of his arms. The clerk advised that the suspect had allegedly stolen approximately $400 in quarters and then exited the store. Detectives were able to identify the suspect as Martin Rojas. Rojas was later located at the Horizon Market on Highway 372. Deputies were able to match one of Rojas's tattoos with what they saw on the surveillance photos. Officers asked Rojas about the theft at the Blag Road Horizon Market. According to the declaration of arrest, Rojas admitted to stealing the money from the coin mechanism. When asked why he took the money, he said it was for gas. It was confirmed that Rojas is a confirmed convicted felon as of 2005. Martin Rojas was then arrested for burglary of a business and transported to Nye County Detention Center.
And new news happening today there in Minneapolis. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison for the 2020 murder of George Floyd. Prosecutors had asked for the 30-year sentence, and Chauvin's attorney asked for probation and time served. Chauvin was convicted in April of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Technically, Chauvin faced up to 40 years in prison for the second-degree murder charge and up to 25 years for third-degree murder and up to 10 years for the manslaughter charge.
Today, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention extended through July 31st, 2021, the moratorium on evictions of the hundreds of thousands of Americans who live in multifamily housing communities supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The USDA says today's actions will give tenants at USDA-supported properties essential relief, while the department extends the emergency rental assistance provided by the American Rescue Plan Act. Beyond July 31st of 2021, USDA will continue to offer emergency assistance to USDA multifamily housing property owners and tenants who are experiencing financial hardship due to the pandemic. For more information about the protections provided under this moratorium extension, go to the USDA's website. And we'll be back with more News 25.
You're watching News 25, brought to you by Mountain West Lawyer, Injury Attorneys, 727-9500. News 25, local news you can count on.
Well, Nevadans who received their COVID-19 vaccinations from VA facilities are now eligible for cash and prizes through a public health initiative called Vax Nevada Days. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak and the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, in partnership with Immunize Nevada, announced on June 17th that they will give away $5 million in cash and prizes to Nevada residents who have initiated the COVID-19 vaccine process. Drawings will be held every Thursday, July 8th through the 26th of August, when the grand prize drawing will be held for $1 million.
Scientists are learning more about COVID-19 every day. One recent study shed some light on how the virus manipulates and evades the immune system as soon as someone's infected.
I'm sometimes compared with an alarm system in our house. So basically the invader, in this case the COVID-19 virus, disables the alarm system in the house and thereby can freely, replicate in the human body and spread.
Dr. Michaela Gack is director of Cleveland Clinic, Florida's Research and Innovation Center. She and her team found that one of the enzymes inside COVID-19 disables a key sensor protein in the body. This sensor protein typically alerts the immune system within minutes of detecting a viral invader, but COVID-19 shuts it down. Dr. Gack says most viruses try to inhibit the immune system, but each does so differently. She adds COVID-19's evasion technique appears to be unique. It also provides a target for developing therapies to fight the virus.
Targeting this enzyme of COVID-19, of the virus, would actually, on the one hand, directly block the virus, but it would also restore or even boost our immune system. So it would have this dual function, what I believe could be very beneficial in terms of therapeutics.
Dr. Gack and her research team are currently looking into broad-spectrum antivirals that not only target COVID-19, but the entire family of coronaviruses, including SARS, MERS, and the common cold.
Thanks so much to Brad Francis for that report. Well, there was an item on the recent Board of County Commissioners meeting agenda asking the board to approve sending a letter to the Cannabis Compliance Board regarding a request for an additional marijuana license.
One of the challenges with the marijuana industry is, and as you well know, you've seen there was a lot of lawsuits, and the state kind of flubbed how they addressed and handled several rounds of licenses, opening up for licenses. There has been a substantial amount of time that has passed, and after kind of evaluating the landscape, it's a three-tiered system where you have to be vertically integrated, you have to have a dispensary, you have to have a production facility, and you have to have a cultivation. You grow it, you're able to produce other items at the production outside of the cultivation, and then you have to have an outlet to sell retail, which is the dispensary. I believe that we as a county could potentially benefit having another dispensary that is outside the Pahrump boundaries to serve a different part of the county. And then we also have several members of this industry. They're just caught between a rock and a hard place, and they have an interest and they would like an opportunity to acquire a production license. The benefits to us are increased license fees and increased 2% fees every year. We have to show interest. If we don't show interest or a necessity, then they don't move forward. And I'd like to start having that move forward. I like to look at what that looks like. So we send a letter, we show that this board has an interest in that, and we look to see what comes back from it.
And I agree. I mean, I pushed before, when I was commissioner last, to get at least 2 more dispensaries here, and we kept getting turned down. And I know that there's other groups that had tried to do it and had failed. So I know this is something that's definitely needs to be done.
So
You need a dispensary up north terribly, and
Yep.
there's some, and again, the population here requires it too, because we got one dispensary that's kind of consuming everything. So.
I think that the number of dispensaries originally was based upon population. And to determine the number of dispensaries based upon population is not necessarily a good way to administer the number of dispensaries in the county. I think also it needs to be by location in the county where we have a distinct distance between the north and the south population, and request the Cannabis Board to make their decision based upon the need of the north because of the great distance.
Call for the vote, please. Commissioner Blundo?
Blundo's aye.
Cox?
Aye.
Carboni?
Carboni's aye.
Jabor?
Jabor's aye.
And Strickland's aye. That motion carries 5-0.
News 25 WeatherCam is brought to you by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorney's Office in Pahrump. In a wreck, need a check? Call 702-877-1500.
John Kohler staring out the KPVM weather window and down on Fremont Street, man. They're sliding around down there at 105 degrees today. Get yourself some sliders from the White Castle and enjoy the weekend. We'll tell you about the weather coming up.
News 25 weather is brought to you by Dairy Council of Nevada. The splash of cream in your coffee, the dollop of sour cream on your burrito, the melted toasty cheese on your pizza. Undeniably delicious, undeniably dairy. Enjoy what's real.
Hi, good evening, Nevada. It's John Kohler from the KPVM Channel 25 Weather Studios. Lovely to see you on a Friday. Let's take a look at the temperatures up and down the state. Top part of the state, you're seeing low 90s, 92 down to 90, down to Carson City, Tonopah, mid-80s, Goldfield, mid-80s. Look at you go. Beatty, 97 degrees, all the way up to 101 in Amargosa, 103 in Las Vegas, and out in Death Valley, 110 degrees, making us all look silly. But here in the paradise of Pahrump, where the air is pure, the grass is green, and the temperature is 97 degrees, it's feeling pretty fine. 98 was our high today. West-southwesterly winds to 8 miles per hour as the sun rose this morning in all its glory at 5:27 a.m. It'll set this evening about 8:05, and we pick up another couple minutes at night. Yay night. All right, 73 degrees is where we're heading tonight. 12% humidity going to give us clear skies, but coming into the week, let's take a look. It's going to get a little bit hotter. Oh, yeah, a lot hotter. 105 degrees tomorrow, 12-mile-per-hour winds. A little bit cloudy. We could see some of that desert rain that we love to see so much. 107 on Sunday with clear skies. Looks like we're picking up some cloud cover, and temperatures dropping down to about the 100-degree mark for the rest of the week. We'll look forward to that. Things to look forward to. Okay, it's going to get a little hot, and then it'll get a little cooler. Not too bad. Back to the desk. Here's Miss Indiana.
All right, the temperature's going back up.
They are going back up. So remember to make sure your animals outside have lots of water and cool places to lay, maybe a little pool to, lounge in.
Yes.
And, drink with an umbrella in it, that kind of thing, because the dogs like that.
Well, that's what I do. I stay in the pool with them with an umbrella and I just lay
Check
there
on your neighbors. Make sure if they don't have air conditioning, they get a cool place to stop.
We get them some.
Yeah, and drink lots of water.
All right. We'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Deanna.
I'm Missy. Have a great weekend.
Good night.